Mrs. Eleanor Blackwood stood in her garden, pruning shears in hand, humming a gentle tune as she snipped dead leaves from her prize-winning roses. The morning sun cast a golden glow over her immaculate garden, a kaleidoscope of colours that had won the Millfield Annual Garden Competition 15 years running. "Those hydrangeas are simply divine, Eleanor," called Mrs. Peterson from over the fence. "I don't know how you do it year after year." Eleanor smiled sweetly. "Just a special touch, dear, nothing more." From across the street, Harriet Winters watched through narrowed eyes. 15 years of second-place ribbons hung in her shed, each one a reminder of defeat. This year would be different. This year she would discover Eleanor's secret. "I'm telling you, Martha," Harriet whispered over coffee at the local diner, "there's something not right about that garden. Nobody grows peonies that size without some kind of trick." Martha rolled her eyes. "Perhaps she's just better at gardening than you, Harriet." "Nonsense! I've tried everything. Imported soil, exotic fertilizers, even playing classical music to my plants. There's something she's not telling us." Eleanor was tending to her prized lilies when she noticed Harriet peering through her hedges. "Can I help you, Harriet?" she called, her voice honey-sweet. Harriet emerged, flustered but determined. "Just admiring your work, Eleanor. I was wondering if you might share some of your gardening wisdom with a fellow enthusiast." "Oh, gardening is such a personal journey," Eleanor replied, patting the soil around a particularly vibrant dahlia. "What works for me might not work for you." "Surely you use some special fertilizer?" Harriet pressed, inching closer to the flower beds. "I make my own compost," Eleanor said, her smile never wavering. "Very organic." Over the next week, Harriet became increasingly bold. Eleanor caught her taking soil samples at dawn, photographing her irrigation system at midday, and once attempting to bribe the teenage boy who helped with the heavy lifting. "Mrs. Winters offered me $50 to tell her what's in your garden shed," the boy confessed, handing back Eleanor's spare key. "Did she now?" Eleanor's eyes twinkled with amusement. "And what did you tell her?" "That I didn't know, ma'am. You never let anyone in there." Eleanor patted his cheek. "Good boy. Here's 100 for your loyalty." The night before the garden competition, Eleanor heard a noise. She peered through her curtains to see a flashlight beam dancing across her garden. With a sigh, she slipped on her gardening clogs and grabbed her favourite trowel. "Harriet," she called softly as she stepped onto the dewy grass. "It's a bit late for gardening tips, don't you think?" Harriet froze, caught red-handed by Eleanor's prized rose bushes. I was just looking for my secret," Eleanor finished for her, stepping closer. "After all these years of competition, you still don't understand gardening is about patience." "What's your secret?" Harriet demanded, desperation in her voice. "Is it some illegal chemical, genetically modified seeds? What?" Eleanor's laugh was melodious in the moonlight. "Oh, Harriet, my garden thrives because it's well fed, that's all." "Well fed with what?" Eleanor's smile widened. "Would you like me to show you?" Harriet nodded eagerly, following Eleanor to the garden shed. As Eleanor unlocked the heavy padlock, Harriet's curiosity piqued. "After you," Eleanor gestured. Harriet stepped inside, noticing first the earthy smell, then the unusual arrangement of tools. "I don't see any special—" The shovel connected with the back of Harriet's head with a dull thud. "You know," Eleanor sighed, looking down at Harriet's crumpled form, "I've been wanting to try growing hydrangeas in that bare patch by the oak tree. Your constant meddling has finally proven useful, dear." The following summer, Eleanor stood proudly as the judge pinned the blue ribbon to her cardigan. "Mrs. Blackwood, these hydrangeas are spectacular, such a vibrant blue. I've never seen anything like them." "Thank you," Eleanor beamed. "I call them Winter's Blues. They're quite new to my garden." "And whatever happened to Harriet Winters?" asked Mrs. Peterson. "No one's seen her since last year's competition." Eleanor gazed lovingly at her blue hydrangeas, their colour so reminiscent of Harriet's favourite pantsuit. "Oh, I imagine she's pushing up daisies somewhere," Eleanor replied with a wink. She always did love gardening,